Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
I'm like Denzel at the end of Flight right now, Tom.
Just ripped on coke.
Yeah, John Goodman's just keeping
Cheadle
me in
walks
one
in the
piece.
room like, is he fucking dead?
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
We just watched Thunderbolts.
We watched Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts' little anus.
Tiny anus.
Little side anus.
Yeah, little anus butt smooch.
Lena means a hero. There is no higher calling. Your sister understood something about that.
I should have come back for you.
No. That's just a fairy tale.
This is
It smooches your poops on their way out.
Yeah. Oh, it does.
It does.
Little,
See,
like,
yeah, little smooches.
Mwah,
Yeah,
mwah.
just
Goodbye.
sending them out of the nest.
Yeah. What is this, like the director of Anora or something?
I don't remember.
Robot and Frank. I looked it up. I just love that this is now what we do. Where it's like someone makes like this really heartfelt drama or something, and they're just like, "You want to do
poop.
He-Man?" And they're like, "Absolutely."
Yeah, hell yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. This is the latest Marvel.
Yeah,
It's doing
doing pretty
good.
well actually.
Yeah, it's doing well. It is like the you know what the B team idea. I mean, you'll explain it to me. We're gonna spoil the shit out of this, obviously.
Yeah,
How did you like Thunderbolts?
I actually liked it a lot.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think I have like a unkind word to say about this movie.
No, not really.
No, it's a standard Hollywood blockburster.
There's a couple of
It's not an
standard
art house.
superhero and blockbuster stuff, but I appreciated how dark it was. I always appreciate when they can find an interesting conflict that isn't a laser in the sky or having to punch somebody really hard.
Yeah, I would argue it's a very small scale ending.
It is.
And it doesn't, I mean, it involves punching, but it doesn't actually involve punching.
Yeah, but not really, yeah.
It's just very funny. This is a real sign of the times where they're like, what's the next superhero team going to fight? And they're like, depression. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But it's kind of perfect for Marvel.
Yeah.
Because Marvel is in a depression of a sorts. Like, it's a good way.
And
like, I want to, like, oh, what were you going to say?
I was going to be, and this is the first movie since Endgame that has felt like it's delivering on the promise of, okay, clean slate, this is a new team, it's a new tone, because it's still the same tone, but everybody's a little nastier in this movie, and there's like people die, and you know, it feels different, and then spoilers at the end, it's revealed that these are the new Avengers.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Which is a thing.
I love that because they're all kind of shitty. And they all have like way different powers than the original Avengers. But anyway, I mean, except for US Agent.
I like that because I like that the whole asterisk where I was like, what are they doing with that? What's the little quirk there? And it's like, oh, I get it.
It was a fun payoff. Yeah.
It was a good payoff. It's a yeah. So like, I didn't mind, Captain America, the last one.
Oh, Brave New World.
Brave New World.
Yeah.
It's more of just that did feel like kind of more of the same.
Right. We were both positive but kind of lukewarm on Brave New World just because of that. Like it felt like, well, I liked this, but it does feel like, yeah, like you said, more of the same.
But what was kind of magical watching this, I saw it in IMAX, I saw it at Universal Studios, I saw it at 10 a.m., but I did see it in a full theater.
I saw it at
and there
noon,
were people,
but it was also full.
Time. Yeah, and it was
And
like people and their kids.
I got this a special cup that has a little. You could get your choice of little
Aw.
topper. I got Red Guardian.
Damn right you did.
Because I'm a dad now.
Yeah,
So I had to get the dad.
right.
Anyhow, continue.
No, I saw it. So I saw it, and it was like there were kids, there were young adults. It was your typical Marvel crowd, and I
Yeah.
just want to note that when the movie started, like the AMC Nicole Kidman started,
Mhm.
right?
Pulitzer
Not a
Prize winner
fucking-
Nicole Kidman.
Yep, not a peep. The Marvel logo started. The Fantastic Four stuff started. We had an IMAX Fantastic Four. They were blasting Marvel at us. Like,
oh yeah,
you know how Marvel
we got that extended preview too,
yes,
but it
and,
wasn't
like,
in
did you get
IMAX.
the
I didn't see it. I didn't
No,
see it
there's
in
like
IMAX.
there's an IMAX countdown where it's like, when you go to a theater and there's like 7 trailers
Yeah.
for the theater you're in,
Yes.
where it's like, this is AMC Laser, and so on. The IMAX thing was Fantastic Four themed, and it was like really dragged out when it got to the 4.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't see that. I had to
Yeah.
see it in plain old digital.
It's all to say that they were blasting Marvel at us.
Oh yeah.
At the beginning,
they're
of
trying
this.
to get you to smoke the whole bag.
Yes, and the crowd was silent, and I was like, "That's not good."
A great sign.
I was just like, nobody is like,
Full
is
theater though.
right, but well, that's the thing.
Well, I
Everybody
think
was
everybody
like,
was kind of like,
it was like church. Everybody was
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, exactly. We got it. We got to go. And then the opening Marvel theme, nothing. And then the Marvel theme does the thing where it goes dark,
Went
and
dark,
it like
yeah.
recognizes the death of Marvel almost. And that's all to say, by the end, the audience was cheering, and
Yeah.
like it felt like a Marvel movie all of a
Yeah.
sudden again. And
And it
I thought
was-
that was really fascinating because it was like Marvel being like, all right, we're all tired.
we gotta come
Yeah.
through it. Yeah. They had to face the void, Dave.
Yeah.
The only way to face it is to go through it.
Yeah.
And man, yeah, it's that was the same sort of thing because when in the beginning the Marvel logo goes dark, it was like okay, because like they were trying to sort of push that angle before, and I'm always
Right.
kind of like, all right, because they promise, oh,
Right,
this
they're
movie's
like,
going
it's
to be
real
our
dark this time or
XYZ, and it's just
Yeah.
another Marvel movie that's kind of maybe filmed in a different style.
Right.
But yeah, this one was genuinely different and darker, and like we said, a new tone, and it was fun to have a new slate of characters that we only know so well, particularly like Ghost. Like we didn't really haven't spent too much time with her. And Walker some, but and then of course Bob is the new guy. It was it was fun to be like to feel like you're getting reintroduced to Marvel, because like I'm a Marvel fan of the comics, but like this is an area that's getting obscure for me. So
yeah, I mean, I think
but,
it's weird
anyway.
to say. No, it's weird to say that it's a new tone. You're right, but I would say
it was
the
fun
tone
to be
is more-
surprised by Marvel again, because I legit gasped when that little girl vanished.
Yeah, that was great.
Like my
I was
jaw
like,
dropped.
oh,
I was like, the fuck?
yeah, because it really looks like he's murdering those people.
Yes, it does.
And to the, it's a kids movie, so ultimately they're like, no.
Well, somebody gets
died.
shot. Taskmaster gets shot in the face.
Yes, that was fun.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted
Fun's a weird
you.
word. No. It's just when we talk about tone, where it's still like, all right, the people who, there's still death, but there's not like, we're gonna. But that's the stuff where I'm like, I don't care. It's a blockbuster. Like,
Yeah, but
I'm not looking for characters to like die. And
no, but
I
I did appreciate real quick that they like Taskmaster is killed almost immediately. So they like right up top, they're sort of showing you, hey, people can die here. So like there was like I genuinely like there's people you're pretty sure about. Like obviously they're not going to kill off Florence Pugh, but like David Harbour.
David Harbour, I thought like
like it's like
does he want to do this?
Right, and they're really setting him like they have that. But at one point I was like, no, they won't. It would be too cruel at this point if they killed him with everything that Florence Pugh is going through in the movie. But anyway, I
true.
appreciated that it established up top that there were stakes.
Yes. Oh yeah, and I mean, well, again, stakes or no, I guess what it is for me is I was very nervous going into this because the trailers really wanted you to think it was Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's not
Like-
that though, which is
Yeah, where they're like 90s song. Oh, it's so funny and self-aware. And it isn't that.
no.
It's earnest, and it never felt like they fully have shaken off Joss Whedon, where it's like
That's another
meta stuff.
Yeah, that's about the tone. It wasn't just
Yeah.
that like Taskmaster shot in the face and it feels a little darker and everybody's kind of nastier. They were talking directly about things that were more mature themes. Like
Right.
Bob is explicitly
Like-
a drug addict.
Yes, they're talking about depression.
Yeah,
They know
he said
that
he
their
specifically
audience is
said
aged
I
up.
was on meth flipping
Yeah.
a sign. Like it's like Bob's life was dark.
Yeah,
And it's
Bob's not
stuff
doing
that they
great.
kind of, will brush up against, but they'll never say it. Like they never came out and said anything directly about racism in Brave New World, even though it's clearly some of
yeah.
the themes there.
yeah. I mean, Disney is always,
of course,
Disney.
of course, but I did appreciate them at least being willing to like, okay, we'll let. Like somebody got shot in the head, so fine. We'll let them discuss more mature subject matter because they allow it on the TV shows.
Yeah,
It's just like let it go in one of the movies, guys.
I
Anyway.
also appreciate. No, I appreciate when, because there's always the sanitation where it's
Mhm.
like you can show someone being vaporized, but you can't talk about gay people, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think being vaporized is worse. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure most of humanity would agree with me, and so like. That idea of like, if we're gonna shoot someone in the head, let's
I mean-
let's let's treat it the way as what it is, where it's like, yeah, that's an adult subject, so this is a darker tone. The superhero movies are able to sanitize death easily while acting like they have to tiptoe around other things, and so it's just nice. I don't know. Yeah, like you're saying, it's nice to see them kind of embrace more adult topics head on.
Mhm.
I mean, the whole thing, it's about depression. It starts with her being like, I'm just feeling really depressed. And it's a delightful sequence
Right.
because it's an action
It's her
sequence.
doing wet work while she's just being
and talking about
bummed.
her depression.
Yeah.
Like it was, I thought,
And it's like real stuff. Like surprisingly, like she has that the arc between her and David Harbour where it's like she feels abandoned by him. Like he is her father for all intents and purposes, even though
Right.
they're not biologically related. But she feels abandoned by him. They actually address Black Widow being dead. Like she's
that was nice.
really like that's like kind of the main cause of her funk. It's like she's like, I finally got my sister back, and now she's gone, like forever now.
Right.
And they have like a real conversation, like they're dressed like superheroes, and it's right after that Sentry shows up and starts deleting people. But they have like a real conversation where he's like, it ends with them saying, I'm late, but I'm here now.
right.
It was just like shit like that. I was like, I was glad just them willing to address it directly and not tiptoe around it. And it's not even that it's like a big explicit thing. It was just a little more mature than we tend to see.
This does feel like, it's weird to say, is like, if you're going to watch the Marvels full through, this is the one I would like skip to after Endgame.
Honestly, yeah, you could kind of skip right to this.
Yeah, because
You'd need a couple
there was-
of little footnotes, but
yeah,
not many.
there was this general attitude after Endgame where they're like, anyway, let's keep on going. Hey, look at this guy. Hey, look at this guy. And it's like, you have to continue this continuity that you've set forward, right? Where it's like in the Marvel,
Well, that was the
franchise,
thing. They
the
shouldn't
meta
have, right?
thing-
Sorry, continue.
no, I mean that you have to continue the continuity of emotional continuity,
Right.
which is like everybody, the audiences are at a big dip where they're like, all right, it feels like the end of an era. And it's sort of like what Marvel forgot to do is start over.
Move on.
And be like, okay, here, let's get small again. Let's do, okay, here's another little superhero. Let's get back to origins. Let's get back to like setting up the people
Mhm.
that you're going to want to take another journey with. And it's like, it's okay if they're people from previous, from the previous era, but
Yeah,
they really needed to do that work. And like, Yeah, they sort of had to start.
I think they
it
were
felt like-
afraid and didn't quite know what to do. But
It's that feeling of everything has to be bigger, right? Always bigger, always bigger.
everything's got to make $1 billion. Like this movie didn't feel like it has that pressure.
No, again, it's very small at the end. It really just takes place on a city street. And then most
Honestly,
of it's
you're right.
in a
It's
person's
just
mind.
that one, even though there's big shots of the city, that's an effect. Like it really is just that street. You're right.
I was thinking that where I was like,
and a room,
budget-wise,
a fucking, like an attic room, and then one other room. And that's it. That's the whole
another
finale.
room that was a previously established set.
That's right. Just the lab that she was in earlier.
Yeah, I think they were like, how can we make this cost effective?
Yep. That was good, though.
That was good because I'm sure they were thinking that, weirdly enough, when they first made the first Iron Man, the first Hulk, where they're like, all right, let's not spend too much money here.
Right.
Whereas by the end, they're like, yeah, let's throw $300 million. I mean, I don't know how much this cost. Maybe it cost $1 billion.
I think it was 180, 185. And it's made like 160.
Yeah. But yeah, it and like that's the thing
that's
is
a little
that,
more.
like,
I mean, that's still a lot, but like 185 for a big Disney blockbuster, that doesn't feel. I guess I don't know.
I mean,
it doesn't
the
feel as
thing where,
grotesque
like,
as 290.
It's the thing where when people say like limitations spawn creativity, that's not a saying, but you know what I mean.
But yeah, it's you figuring out how to work
Which is
around
that-
it is where greatness often comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird to say this about
great
like
ideas.
a budget that's 120 million or whatever.
I think it's
But,
180, but yeah.
Yeah, but like it's very silly to say that about something like this.
I mean, a lot of that
But,
could
like-
be salary too. I don't know. I don't know what these actors are getting. I'm sure they're not getting paid. Maybe Florence Pugh, but they're probably not getting paid RDJ numbers.
And I don't know. Maybe they
Maybe are because they have the precedent to be like, we should negotiate like he did.
Yeah. But I
'Cause
don't
we know
know
you're
if they're actually
you're going
like,
to try to make a bunch of these Avengers movies now. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I don't know if they're actually like feel limited. But they limited themselves, it felt like.
They probably do feel limited in terms of in as much as 180 million is a limitation, but I'm sure there was shit like it can't be a big finale. It can't like you can have X number of effect, but I'm sure there were like because Quantumania was like a big expensive fart. Like and Indiana Jones, even though it's not a Marvel movie, it's all Disney. Like they've taken big hits in the past couple of years. So I'm sure like this budget of this movie is like half the budget of Endgame almost, and like almost a third of the budget of Indy. Like it's
funny.
There definitely is a scale back here. Sorry.
No, it's just funny to talk about it in that term. 'Cause, like, Fantastic Four is going to have Galactus showing up, where it's like these are still huge scales.
His big feet walking down the street in that preview. I'm so excited, Dave.
Just casually strolling.
Oh, I love it. Herbie's there.
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
So like these are still big scale, but they almost feel like this felt like a 90s movie scale.
Yeah,
where it's like it's hard when
it's like, it was like the end of Ghostbusters. It's just the earthquake in front of the building. Like that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is.
And then just the roof.
Yeah. So it is a small scale, I would say, for Marvel.
Yeah, certainly for Marvel, yeah.
But like, so I think even going into this and knowing like, all right, we're in a dip, we're in a depression, right? They could have still easily been like, so let's do scrappy underdogs. They're joking. They're fun.
Let's go back to the well and do what we know works.
Exactly. And it's nice that like, this isn't like completely unfamiliar. It's a team of people. They're trading jabs. There's just something about the dynamic of the characters.
I was going to say,
where it's like they all are really mean to each other.
I was going to say it felt more authentic. Like the characters were defined in such a way where you're like, well, these two are never going to get along. Like they're just fundamentally opposed to each other. It's not like, oh, Thor and the Hulk are punching each other in the it's not like just all the endless jokey snarkiness, like you said, the the Joss Whedonness of it all. Like it feels like these characters genuinely are gonna have a hard time getting along.
Right. I guess like look at Star-Lord, right?
Yeah.
Is you could imagine a scene where Star-Lord is like, and maybe there was a scene I'm not even thinking of, where he's like trying to steal something and this alien is like, hey, stop right there, and Star-Lord like zaps the guy, and it's like, oh, he killed that guy, oh, I'm a lovable like rogue, look at me, and he's still joking, and you're not really thinking about the fact that it's like he's a murderer. He just killed the guy.
Yeah.
But they like sanitize it under this zaniness, and I love the Guardians, don't get me wrong, but like that versus Wyatt Russell.
I was gonna say,
who's like,
Walker's
you
a
murdered
real
a man in the
son of a
street.
bitch.
Right, and it's like, and so it's like, it's that where it's like they easily could have sanitized him,
yeah,
to
and
be
didn't.
like, yeah, and it's like, no, he's just like scum.
I like that,
he's just like a shitty dude.
I like that they sort of get into it though, and like by the end, when he's sort of likable, it feels earned.
Yeah, and the reason why is because they don't try to make him extremely likable.
No,
like you said, he's sort of likable.
Right. It's just that
like,
he winds up being reliable. And like he winds up being, he's like, one of the things I thought was interesting about his character, or fun about how he's written, is he does approach each situation like Captain America, but the asshole version of Captain America.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about that because there's two things this movie tackles, two subjects. And like, so I guess since we're talking about him, and this is the thing that I'm like,
kind of a couple.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Sure, sorry.
Is that Disney, I'm sure, and this movie feels like they talked about it, which is where do we stand politically? And I mean the meta of it and in the universe, right? So we have Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and then we have...
And we haven't even mentioned her yet. She's great.
She's great in this.
Yeah, she is great.
And we have Wyatt Russell, and we have this, like... They've been teasing this idea of, like... You know, they go a little Homelander in this. They create a Homelander briefly.
They do, but I like how different he is from Homelander.
But you can tell they're invoking that, where they're like... Well, this is a corporate hero.
Yeah, for sure. That is what Sentry looks like, but yeah. I mean.
And so, like, Marvel has always had, like, this weird overtone, right? Where it's like this small group of rich heroes and corporate people can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And they present her as, like, the sinister version of that. But it felt like ultimately, like, they didn't know quite what to do about that. And it felt like they sort of kicked it to the next movie. And I'm not sure. Ultimately, I'm not sure how I feel about all of that. Because, like, the movie does a very good job at, like, not reforming anybody, but not punishing anybody. Meaning that, like, she at the end, it just rolls with it. The plot, for people who haven't seen it, is that she's trying to manufacture a corporate hero and basically...
she's rebuilding, literally rebuilding Avengers Tower. She's moved into.
Yeah, Little Bill Pullman.
Louis Pullman.
Yeah, she's like, you know, you'll become our Homelander, basically. And obviously, like, there's a whole series, a separate series addressing this idea. And this is sort of like the optimistic version, where it's like she's like, I've created this like fascist, like, Homelander type hero that realizes he has a god complex and he is unkillable. And he has a complex, and we're going to take kind of honestly, they took like the easy answer where they're like, nah, let's fix him. And it's fine. And then we all win. And then she's like, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is like, she just runs with it. She's like, no, it's the Thunderbolts, new Avengers. And she basically covers her ass from impeachment, from jail time, by basically becoming their Nick Fury at the end,
right?
Which is like a very cynical idea.
Well, they've been positioning her as that.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
No, and you kind of stand back from it, and the thing I guess that they don't fully point out is like, what's the difference between her and Nick Fury? Really? You know, like the first Avengers run, it's sort of like, you know, the meta, the cracked observation is, of course, like, yeah, it's just it's a group of war criminals.
Yeah,
just like getting together.
In their secret airship, like
lord
governing
over the world.
planet. Yeah, making decisions for every government. Yeah. It's
So
hard
it's
to
like-
get around with superheroes because that's superheroes have to be able to make autonomous decisions to go zoom off and punch the bad guys. It's like collateral damage to invoke our most recent Mr. Universe episode of superhero stories. But yes, it is always there.
This is very Marvel, because what I mean is that, like, you look at the Joss Whedons of it all, where, like, you know, you'd make cracked articles of like, look how ridiculous the Avengers are. And then Joss Whedon comes along and absorbs that, right?
Yeah.
They absorb it. They go like, oh, let's get ahead of it. Let's also point out how ridiculous
Hawkeye's
it
like,
is.
I'm fucking stupid. Look at these arrows. I should be getting blasted in half by these Ultrons.
Right. And they do it under this like corporate roof, right? Under Disney of like, we're also... So I guess it kind of gave me tinges of The Boys comes out and popularizes like, actually this is all like fascist propaganda, and I don't know if it's weird for Marvel to say like, let's also absorb that meta observation.
They definitely need to be aware of it, because one thing The Boys, your mileage on it may vary, but one thing The Boys I think is still doing really, really well is lampooning Marvel. Like it really just kind of lays bare how fucking ridiculous and stupid and just a product Marvel is.
Right. And it's not just Marvel, corporate
it's
entertainment loves doing this. You look at Lower Decks, right?
Right.
Where it's like, oh, we're gonna own the funny counterculture, and it's like, man, feels like you're killing it that way, honestly.
Yeah,
it's
it kind of feels like you ruined it. Now you took the thing that was good about it and ruined it.
Right, and I don't know how to navigate this with Marvel, because it's like,
well, I think this is a good direction. Like, I'm not saying, I said it, it's ridiculous and stupid and a product, because it is to an extent, but obviously I still like these stories, and you can still make good stories, obviously, because a lot of the Marvel movies are good. Made by good filmmakers, and good, like blockbusters can still be
always
good. Yeah,
it's Godzilla featuring Pepsi or whatever. Sure. Where I'm like, this isn't new, and that's why I'm like, I want to make sure it's more to me of like fandom elevated that it feels like lately, and like it's like I want that line to be clear, right? Yeah. So it's like it's almost that feeling of like, Marvel, just do your dumb superhero movies. Let other people comment on it. The idea of absorbing it is weird to me, because I'm like, will they responsibly do that? Because I think about Marvel films a lot as like, did they fuck us up? Like, did they fuck up the zeitgeist to be like, yeah, it's good actually that billionaires can like control everything?
No, I mean, that's always been around.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah. Anyway, I was gonna say, I think what this movie does is a good direction. Like I had said earlier, this one feels like the first one that is like, okay, Avengers is over. We are moving on. This is a new chapter. You don't need to know much about the last stuff at all. We're moving on. And they sort of address the Homelanderness of it all, where they don't make a judgment on it, but they do point it out of like how basically Julia Louis-Dreyfus is the CIA, how it's corporate and it's front facing one thing, but behind the curtain it's very different.
In a vacuum, I like this movie. Yeah. And I don't think it handles it poorly. I just wish Marvel was a little more removed from reality, meaning that like these are artists, right? And they can't help but to add their own thoughts, or like, like I imagine if you're writing a Marvel movie now, you're like, I want to inject some like stuff about, it's just hard because it's like, I don't want to be like, oh, movies they're too political. It's more of just like, either know what you're going to say about it, or like leave it out of my brain. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, they're walking a hard line because ultimately, like you said, they don't really comment on it. It's just there.
Yeah.
And it's hard because when you're exploring this universe, you're like, well, what else would be? Where else would it go? You know? So it's just interesting. I don't really have an answer yet, but I'm like, where is it? Where are you going with this? Is kind of my thing where I'm like, that character, are we going to reform her? You know what I mean? Where it's
hope not. I hope she just stays. She's basically Amanda Waller from Suicide
look at Wyatt
Squad
Russell,
and
right?
Peacemaker. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, look at Wyatt Russell, where it's like he killed a man in the street and he was a tool of fascism. And it's again where it's like they do a good job in that Captain America story where he's not like, where they sort of explain like he's just some guy.
Right, he's not a monster. He's just he gets pushed and then he's in this
It's hard though because he kind of is a monster.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's part of this white supremacist structure there, mechanism.
I think about, and it's not just political. I think about like Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
Bucky is an interesting character because it's like when you think about when he was first conceived, it was like he killed Tony's parents, right?
Yeah,
and like that started the Civil War. And then it's like, how does that resolve? And the way they resolved it was they just said, let's keep them apart. And it never really has to resolve. You know what I mean?
Yep. These two just can't be in the same scene together ever again.
Right. And so like they present these really interesting moral issues. And I'm not sure. And honestly, I'm not sure how I would resolve that. Right. It's tough.
It's difficult. Yeah.
But I think
it broke up the Avengers.
Yeah, I think Wyatt Russell presents an interesting, and they sort of at the end of this, they're like, they're not really the new Avengers. They're like the off-brand Avengers.
Well, yeah, and I think it's one of the things that the movie was dealing with. You know, in addition to like depression. I mean, this is part of it. Is forgiving yourself, like forgiving yourself,
right? Because
like they're all dwelling on their shittiness. And it's like, yeah, you were shitty. You did shitty things. Like
the ability to come back from the brink is a positive thing, message right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, you can stop being shitty. Like there's still time for you to stop being shitty. And that's kind of what they do with Wyatt Russell.
Yeah, and that's the second thing I wanted to talk about because I think they actually nailed this, even though it's cheesy. Is once I realized this is about depression, I was like, oh, Marvel, don't fuck this up.
Oh man!
Once they have the characters, the Void, I'm like, okay, you can't kill him. Nope. Also, he can't kill himself to help others. I was like, he can't like self-destruct.
He could if you're the makers of Lights Out,
right? That's the thing where it's like, all right, I really like.
You want to be
Marvel,
grotesquely irresponsible,
and that's what I was scared of. I was like, Marvel. Are you going to be able to handle this?
Cool, Marvel.
Are you going to handle depression?
Yeah.
Because there's a point where I'm like, when I thought they did the shadow stuff, they did a good job because it was like they don't tell you what he's doing.
No.
When he's turning, and I just thought, oh yeah, he's fucking murdering.
It looks
people.
like, yeah.
And that's why it was really smart because it is at a point where you're like, it's real darkness because you're like. They presented Bob as a guy who's not an asshole. He just has darkness. He just is he's suffering.
Yeah.
And then
he's kind of a bit of a broken person.
Right. And then they have him go past the point of no return, or so you think. And that's when I was like, oh God, like, does Bob have to die? Because that's an it's
a terrible way to end this. Yeah. But no, I like that it gave the opportunity for because what Yelena has to do is just go up basically and face the darkness head on, not knowing whether or not she's going to come out the other side, but knowing that that's the only way through.
Yeah, I like that. It was a good gambit.
Yeah, it was a good gambit because we don't know what the fuck's going to happen either when she walks in there. Like, I mean, we know
Yeah,
she's not going to die. She's the main character, but like, we don't know what to expect.
It's a very basic moral message, but it's correct. And again, it felt very cheesy, but it needed to be, which is that the answer to the void was for someone to reach into the void and pull Bob back.
And grab him, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just simply like the ending is they do a good job where he's met with his void self and he starts wailing on him. And even that, I was like, I would have accepted that to some extent. Yeah. And they were like, no, it's not violence. That's the point.
I'm
like,
glad
even
they addressed. I'm glad that wasn't it, because like as it was happening, I was like, this doesn't feel right.
Right.
and then it becomes
like,
clear in the movie, and
right.
and then she says, this doesn't feel right.
Right. This is what they want.
Yeah. And then they literally hug him. They hug it out. Yeah, they hug him.
Which again, very cheesy, but it has to be corny. That's sort of.
But
that's what.
It's what it is, though. It's
exactly
what it is. They hug him, and she says to him, "You're not." She just keeps repeating to him, "You're not alone." It's the Goodwill Hunting fucking scene.
Yeah,
they're just holding him and saying, "You're not alone." Over, and he breaks down and starts crying, and the void is defeated.
Yeah,
like that's how they defeat the villain in this, the quote unquote villain.
Yeah.
Just hug it out, man. Just hug it out.
Well, that's the thing is like there's no real villain. The villain is
Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She does try to get them all killed.
That's true. And then at the end they have Bob just hanging out at the New Avengers place.
That's because he doesn't remember.
Right.
That's just real quick. I wanted to go into the comic version of Sentry that I'm only a little familiar with, but he's a really cool character in that it's the inverse, I think. Yeah, that's right. It's the inverse in the comics where he remembers, nobody else does. Nobody remembers he's a superhero.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the void is like this, I think it's like this like celestial entity that comes behind him and like the Langoliers. Like I think that's how it works. But anyway, in the comics, nobody remembers him.
That's interesting.
And here, he doesn't remember everybody else, which is, well, he doesn't remember that he was a superhero.
He doesn't remember what he did. Yeah.
Or that he has powers or anything.
It's sort of it's kind of an addiction metaphor, which is funny.
For sure.
Because I love the idea that like, listen, kids, when you drink, it gives you powers. It makes you strong, but you do bad things.
They were more clear on it earlier when he's like, some days I feel powerful. Like I feel invincible. Other days... and it's like, oh, yeah.
Which is, here's the interesting thing with that is what I hope for his character. I hope he continues to be in the movies.
I'm sure
I hope he never shows his power again. I hope he's always just hanging out. Yep. And like, I just think that would be fun because it's sort of like what they presented here is they're just like, he can't. Because like even the power as a metaphor for addiction is like, even if it's good, it's not good.
That's the thing, and that's the thing with Sentry too in the comics. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's the void always comes with him.
Right. So it would be fun if he's just never... He's just always there and never helps.
He's kind of their Hulk in that way. You know?
Yeah, I guess so. I think that's what they're probably going to go with.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think Sentry will probably return.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it would be more fun if he never did.
I like at the end,
it was like if Hulk did it once, it was like, nope.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that again. Did you see what it did to my clothes?
Yeah, fuck that.
I do like at the end when she's introducing them as the new Avengers, where Bob is also standing away from them and clapping.
Yeah, I like that too.
Doesn't realize he's part of the group.
Yeah, they did good with Bob.
Yeah, Bob was a good character.
Yeah, because I mean, it's skating that line where it's like there was a point where again and this is what they wanted, and it's funny to like kind of fall for the tricks of a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
But there's been enough variations. But when he is the Void, you do get the sense of like, they wanted us to like Bob, but now he's not Bob anymore. And therefore, like, we can kill him. You know what I mean? That feeling of like, where, you know,
a little, I do know what you're saying. Yeah.
They've had sympathetic villains before that they've just murdered.
We just talked about that and I forget where we did, but yeah, that came up recently where it's they're trying to have their cake and eat it too by like having the villains be like sympathetic, but also, well, they have to die because they're maniacs.
Right, it's the Killmonger of it all, where it's like I think they needed this nuance for Black Panther, and they didn't have it yet.
Yeah,
like this is them
and
showing
I think they've
more
just
of a
tried
nuance.
to transplant that to other things, and it hasn't worked. But
right, and what's funny is they've had this nuance before with characters like Loki, right? Where Loki, you almost feel like I almost feel like the opposite, where it's like he tried to kill everybody. It's like they address it by not addressing it, meaning that the Avengers never interact with Loki, just Thor, right? So they address it in the sense that they say like, well, they just won't hang out anymore.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Just keeping certain groups of friends separate.
Right, and Loki did have to ultimately sacrifice his life. So it's like, if you're going to do those reforms, like, yeah, why not do it in a single movie as opposed to over the course? And again, going back to Valentina, I'm like, I don't need there's certain characters where I'm like, I don't need that treatment. Like, it feels like Marvel, for a lot of Marvel now, it's like there is that reform path, you know?
I think I think it's a symptom. I don't think it's bad because like we said, like the message of this film, like you can come back from the brink, is a good message. Yeah. Like you can have done shitty things and come back. You don't have to keep being shitty.
Yeah.
But I think there's a problem among like every blockbuster movie, or a lot of them anyway, where they're just afraid to have a character have any kind of flaw. It was like the year when the Green Knight came out the same time as the Tomorrow War, where like the Green Knight is all about being a flawed hero. Right. And then the Tomorrow War was like Chris Pratt is a super soldier, biochemist, time traveler who betrays his daughter, but not really. It was just this misunderstanding because he was actually like granting a wish to save everybody's life from the universe or aliens or whatever. It was just like it was just not only like there was no flaw in him, but he like could do I don't know. It's just there was that kind of pattern is showing up a lot in blockbusters right now. And I don't necessarily feel like that's happening in this movie. Like I don't feel like at the end of the movie you've liked Valentina. Like you can you're entertained by her because she's entertaining and fun and funny, but like she's the bad guy. She's still the bad guy at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I think what I'm butting up against is a few things that I find interesting. Is one is there's so many Marvel films, right?
Yeah, I'm not even sure how many there. It's got to be 30 or over 30 now, right?
Right. That over time, they just like they feel it's almost like they slowly. There's so much time for characters to evolve, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, she's bad now, but in like 5 films from now, when they're fighting, you know, the fucking Doctor Doom or whatever, you know, where it's that feeling of like, it's just so many installments that it's an interesting thing to navigate. Again, look at Bucky, where it's like, yeah, this is a character who was at one point advertised at least as a villain. Obviously he was never really the villain.
No, not even in that first film.
I think Wyatt Russell is the more interesting one, where it's like, but there's that. And then there's the fact of like, because there's so many movies, unlike blockbusters that used to be like one and done, it kind of constantly changes the moral lines they draw because it's different people making each movie, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this big mess of like blockbusters that some of them are like, okay, we're doing good versus evil, pew pew, nice and simple. And then there's others that's like, no, there's like nuance and gray areas to the world. And all these movies technically exist in the same universe. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's interesting because I'm like,
yeah.
It's drawing all these lines that they have to navigate in this bigger world. Because you look at this character and I'm like, I wonder if I went back and looked at other villains that they like snuffed out. Are there ones that are like, no, they could have had a redemption too? I don't know. Again, it's just, again, it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because how many fucking movies have there been?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure. I think 30 at least, right?
Yeah. You know what was a real bummer is when Bucky is like the old timer.
I know.
And I was just like, no, he's not. And then I like did the math and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, he is.
Fuck.
It is fun though in the scenes when he shows up, because it's like, oh, here's like an Avenger.
Yeah.
Like the scale of ass that is whipped increases when Bucky shows up.
Yeah.
Oh, they also did. Oh man, that's something as we keep bringing up Wyatt Russell. Like, I liked how in that first scene where she locks everybody in the vault, and everybody has orders to kill somebody else. Like,
yeah, that was fun.
You realize how scary it is to be locked in a vault with somebody with super soldier strength. Because after a minute, it's because it's him and Yelena fighting for a bit, and then after a minute, you're like, "Oh fuck, she can't do anything to him."
Right.
And then even when like Ghost comes, like, "Fuck, man, he's gonna kill all of these people."
Yeah.
Yeah, they make the super soldier serum. I don't know. In that scene, you're like, "Oh shit, yeah, nobody else here has super strength. That's a real problem."
What'd you think? Because we haven't really talked about the action itself. I thought
it was good.
It's all very practical.
Yeah, yeah. Like even the highway chase, I was surprised at how much of it was real cars and real stunts.
I think it's funny because when you look at it related to other Marvel's films, it's not that much different. But they knew to do like, okay, it's all it. They didn't forget they're an action film.
No.
So it's like actual stunt people doing actual stunts. Oh, we're going to do this car thing. Let's just do it for real. Let's flip these Humvees.
Yeah.
And it felt really good.
Let's do the Dark Knight flip. Everybody's like, yeah, we've seen it. They're like, we're going to do it again. Okay, we're going to do it again with a limo.
Right. And then that was really
eating
fun.
more popcorn.
Yeah. And then when it came to, okay, let's do the big CGI thing, as we're pointing out, they were like, well, let's do like a weird inner
scary
maze room.
Yeah.
And let's do something we haven't seen with CGI that isn't just a bunch of people fighting.
Yeah, like the Void himself and the effect of the people just getting erased. That was good. And it was, man, he was I really liked what they did with that. To what you were saying earlier about how they also kind of have to make it sympathetic, but also, well, now he's a version of the character that we can kill. I didn't feel that for this one, like even when he was the Void, because it's still just like, especially if you struggle with depression or have in the past, he's just the inner voice.
Right.
So it's like, you still hear Bob in there. It's just Eeyore Bob. It's just like sad Bob. So it's like, you can't, it's more like, it felt like when if one of your friends is having a particular bad day and it's almost frustrating how bummed they are, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like where you just can't make headway with it. Because it's just like, everything's meaningless. You're like, God damn it, Bob. Like, just come out and see a fucking movie, will you? Just come out to miniature golf, please. There's pirates. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Like, but you know, that's more what I felt for the Void. So I didn't.
I was never scared that they were going to kill him. It was more like, I was like, once they do the cell on him.
Yeah.
Once they're doing a cell, I was like, is Nice Bob going to be like, I will destroy myself? And I'm like, well, don't do that. That's a bad message.
It's like, I'll destroy my evil side. Well, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was good they didn't do that.
Yeah. Because it's not his evil side, like I was saying. You don't get an evil vibe from him. It's like he's just sad. And unfortunately, he has the power to delete people with his sadness.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically what it is he's too sad.
Right. It's like if Eeyore was bitten by a radioactive spider.
Radioactive sad spider.
Yeah.
Just a really bummed out spider. The Robert Smith of spiders.
Aww. Yeah. I mean.
But yeah, I thought the action was good. And I thought it did a similar thing to Brave New World, where, I mean, Brave New World was way more digital effects, but like it kept it small, or it kept it focused rather. Where it's like the big sky scene in Brave New World is Sam and 2 jets. It's not Sam and a whole fucking fleet of jets. And this one, it's they're smaller. It's like the Thunderbolts versus like a single room full of henchmen, you know, or like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt, by being more focused, it's still, like you said, the elements are still kind of the same, and it still knows it has to be an action movie, but it doesn't feel, it's not like a big beam in the sky and thousands of aliens and just like, you know, it's, you know, it feels like more like when we used to watch, like, feels more like a classic action movie.
Yeah.
Where I can wrap my head around it, so I don't, you know, it doesn't feel just like so much noise that my eyes glaze over.
Yeah, for sure. They also hug it out in Brave New World, I realize.
They do.
A little bit. And I wonder, it's funny that Marvel keeps sending the message of like, don't let bad people turn us into monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually, I suspect in Fantastic Four, they're going to be like, but also kill this giant robot thing.
You can't kill Galactus, really.
Well, you know what? You're going to try. You're going to have to try. He's a giant weird robot thing. I hope they don't appeal. I don't want to see Galactus be like, actually, I'm battling depression. Like, all right.
In Hellraiser 3, when they make Hellraiser like a mortal dude that used to be sad, and now that's why he's Hellraiser. It's like, what the fuck are we doing?
They're going to hug it out with Galactus.
Do not make Galactus sad. He's Galactus.
Yeah.
He eats planets.
Well, he eats planets because he's sad.
That's what he does.
He's like, I overeat when I'm sad.
Yeah. I eat my feelings.
Yeah.
That's actually the character in the Tick cartoon, Omnipotus. He gets sad and starts eating his feelings, which is moons and stuff. Anyway.
That's great. Yeah, I don't know. This was good. I'm taking it one film at a time with Marvel.
For sure, yeah.
But like, I don't think they have to be the biggest thing in the world anymore. But it's sort of also a rising tide situation where I'm like, it'd be nice to get people back in theaters for stuff.
Yeah.
And like, this made me excited for Fantastic Four. They're clearly already, the end credits was just like, there they are. They're entering our universe or whatever, the Fantastic Four ship. And so like, it's funny because the next Fantastic Four I know is like going to take place in another universe.
Yeah, it's in the
right.
Pretty sure it's at the very least in the 1960s, but like it's probably in another universe.
Yeah, it's just funny that they're already teasing like, it'll be in our universe eventually. Like they're not gonna stay.
I assume it's gonna happen. They may have to abandon their universe to get away from Galactus.
I think that's what's gonna happen.
Probably.
I think Galactus
will show up, and that'll be a whole fucking thing. I don't know, but yeah, it's gonna be Galactus eats reality, right?
I predict that they're gonna fail. Right?
Yeah.
It's going to be, they're going to fail to save their world, and they're going to come to ours, and they're going to be really bummed out about what happened.
Everybody's going to be real sad.
Yeah, I think
they can
so.
join forces with sad Wolverine, who was also just brought into the MCU.
Yeah.
It's our Wolverine, but sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's just very sad.
They definitely need to cool it with the multiverse, and like we talked about this with Deadpool, which is that my wish for Deadpool was that they were going to flatten it. They were just going to go like, no more other universes. It all collapses in on itself. We're good. But I feel like they
all together.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like,
oh, I see what you're saying.
We
said flatten it. I thought you were like, you know, like a guy with a hard hat and a cigar being like, flatten it.
No. I mean, just like we need to end the multiverse.
Yes.
And because the multiverse is too Deus Ex Machina, right? Where it's just like any character who dies, it's like, well, great, we have another.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, it doesn't matter.
We did like 4 years of that, and it did not work. I mean, it worked for one movie. The Spider-Man movie was surprisingly good.
But the multiverse is clearly where they went wrong, right?
It seemed like they didn't quite have a plan after Endgame, and then sort of, I think, kind of felt like they stumbled into the multiverse a little bit.
It's like they're like, I feel like Deadpool versus Wolverine was them like, all right, let's get the Wiggles out. Like, that's what the multiverse felt like to me, is they were like, they just didn't know what to do. They went into this weird nihilistic corporate mode of like, what if everybody talked to everybody? What if everything was meta? What if everything was a joke? Multiverse.
Space Jam did it too. Like, it was a brief dream of everyone. So just like,
it was like, what if
we can just turn it into a corporate fire hose, and these hogs won't care. They'll just slop it up, and actually they do care.
Yeah, and it's like, no story, nothing matters.
Yeah.
Here, like, just like everybody meets everybody. And now I feel like this was them like Deadpool versus Wolverine was just like, all right, get it all out. All right, let's actually tell a story again. What if we told stories?
Yeah, I really liked this one, and I can't stress enough like how this is the first one that really feels like, okay, that's over. This is new. We're moving forward.
Yeah, and like they kind of lowered the bar with the last 4 years or so, but I agree where I'm like, this isn't like, in terms of films, this doesn't blow me away.
No,
as a blockbuster, I'm like, yeah, we're back on the track.
Yeah, you don't need to be. Yeah, we're not asking these movies to be.
No, it's literally the audience I was with.
Amadeus or whatever. It's just you can.
It was
be
just
good.
like, as far as blockbusters go, it was just like, all right,
yeah, I feel good.
We got them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this.
Yeah, I like all these nerds. I'm glad this is the new Avengers.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're not. I'm guessing it's going to be one of those things where the next stuff they'll go like, okay, here's the actual Avengers, right?
Well,
like,
there's probably going to be multiple teams. Like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be the Young Avengers with like Kate Bishop. And probably Echo and some other people. Oh, Miss Marvel, probably.
This is worrying to me, actually, in that the only thing that they still have to combat is like, it used to be that it was like, okay, here's a guy, here's a guy, here's a guy, here's a guy. They all get together. We have made 6 movies or whatever, right? Where it's like, now it's like, here's a team, here's a team, here's a team, here's a team. And now there's like 30 people. Let's all get together. And it's like, and then it's like, those 30 people are going to meet these 30 people. And then it's just like, it's going to get crowded if they keep doing it that way. I would love to see more like, here's a superhero.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just don't know when they're going to do that. Perhaps a Blade.
I was just about to say Blade seems like a good place to start with that.
Yeah, I think they need to scale that back a little bit, because it's like, it does feel like they have just all these clusters, all these contracts that they signed with actors, where it feels like.
Yeah, but it's in directions you could, like, the Blade stuff. It also encompasses like Man-Thing and Werewolf by Night, and also Bloodstone, like all the horror stuff. Yeah, you could do like Dracula and some cool shit.
Yeah, technically Captain America was a singular.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So they're not doing it. But yeah, it's just going to be 2 in a row, and then I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah.
you know, if you like Marvel, we have a show called Marvelin'.
We do.
Where we perfectly recount the MCU from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. Flawlessly.
Me, Tom, and Adam Ganser. You can check that out. That's on our network. We also have a Patreon. Patreon.com/GamefullyUnemployed. GAMEFULLY unemployed. Exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. Himboos, our brand new Supernatural podcast, is also there. All for $5 a month. Check it out.
Just $5 little.
That's true.
We also have a store. Head over to GamefullyUnemployed.com, where you can find a link to our Teespring store, where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs by cool original artists like Michael Vincent Bramley, Starlene Hodge, Justin Brown, and others. So check that out. Rate and review our podcast wherever you listen. Check out our new show, Badical, Badical, wherever you listen to podcasts. Working on the second half of season 1. It'll be out sometime soon. And yeah, I don't know.
Go team.
Go team.
Yay.
Just hug it out, man. Hug it out.
Hug it out. Hey, listen, our music is produced by Chris Corlew. You can find him on twitter.com as the Corlew, or go to shipwreckedsailor.bandcamp.com. Our channel artwork is produced by Michael Vincent Bramley. For more of his work, go to mvbramley.art. Our episode artwork is by Justin Brown, available on Twitter as Justin T. Brown or at artnessbyjustinbrown.com. And finally, additional artwork is by Starlene Hodge. You can find her work at starlenearts.com or on Twitter as StarleneX. Cool. Goodbye.